Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
My friends and I always tune into the Todd Levitt Law Show. Todd is entertaining, informative, and always delivers the goods.
Todd might not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And all you got to do is listen.
Hold on, Todd. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Do you like Phil Collins? I've been a big Genesis fan ever since the release of their 1980 album, Duke. Before that, I really didn't understand any of their work. It was too artsy, too intellectual. It was on Duke where Phil Collins' presence became more apparent. I think Invisible Touch is the group's undisputed masterpiece. It's an epic meditation on intangibility. At the same time, it deepens and enriches the meaning of the preceding 3 albums. Kirsty, take off the robe. Listen to the brilliant ensemble playing of Banks, Collins, and Rutherford. You can practically hear every nuance of every instrument.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting in the Black Diamond Group mothership in the middle of Midton in a beautiful green nutrient field with my favorite NUG. He's the dank of your lifetime. Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle. No poem required. Craig, the water is wet, the sky is blue. You are the NUG of the century, and we love to smoke you. How you doing, Craig?
What? Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
I'm America's favorite NUG. I do not know what you're talking about. America's favorite NUG. Right
We're
here.
back. We are back and better than ever.
After a 2-week hiatus due to the Osable River Canoe Marathon, which we've got some exciting news about. That after having a week off, we're back on the air on 98.5 UPS in central and northern Michigan, back on the podcast streaming worldwide for literally 10 or 12 people all across the fruited plain.
All the Amish communities located in whichever state you're listening to the show, Craig.
There you go. Ready to go.
Hey, how do you like how we opened up the show, folks, this week?
It was a little different.
Craig?
It was a little different. Yeah, that is one of your favorite movies of all time, is it not?
That's such a great movie. Christian Bale just destroyed it in American Psycho. I love the music interpretation before I don't want to give away the show, but if you haven't seen it, folks, American Psycho, great show. And that's one of the many music interpretations that he does throughout the show. So I thought we would entertain the listeners today, bringing back the show strong with your favorite NUG and my favorite NUG, Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle, coming back strong. A little Phil Collins this morning, Craig.
Yeah, I've got to be really honest with you. I don't think we're giving away too many spoilers of a 35-year-old movie. It's been out since the mid-'80s. So if you haven't seen American Psycho, you're probably never going to see it, or you need to see it. But it's not like this is a new movie that's just coming out and you're giving away just spoiler alert. It's a 35-year-old movie. I think you can tell people.
Yeah, but it's a great movie, and it has legs. It's lasted forever. So we opened up with the interpretive description of Phil Collins. He does a Huey Lewis one prior to that in one of the scenes. But Craig, what did you want to ask me? What did you want to ask me?
Well, normally we start the show with a song, and then I always figure out that you really wanted to start the show with a completely different song. So I will ask you, what did you really want to start the show with this week?
I wanted to start the show with one of my all-time favorite top rock female groups, Craig, and who do you think that would be?
The Carpenters?
Exactly, the Carpenters. Yes, without further ado, Karen Carpenter and her brother. Bring it on, Craig.
Probably not the Carpenters, and I'm guessing probably not Helen Reddy either. Probably not.
God, come on, Craig. By the way, who's from the great country of Canada to the north of Michigan, Helen Reddy.
That's correct.
Helen Reddy reference. Well, when does that ever happen on the show? You must be enjoying some of that cake batter, which we'll get to in a little bit here. So
I am America's favorite NUG, so you
are that. So
let's see. Rockin' female Vixen, maybe somebody like that.
No, we love Vixen, not Dolly Parton.
The Bangles, maybe. The Bangles, no.
Joan Jett.
Oh,
baby.
Joan Jett.
Come on, Craig. Turn it and burn it and destroy it with some Joan Jett. That's who we were going to open up the show with this week until we got off on the Phil Collins American Psycho interpretive description. You're enjoying cake batter. I'm enjoying a little something lighter, some Maui Mango Diesel. Just destroy it and turn it upside down, Craig.
And we're all going to enjoy Do You Want to Touch? Yeah. Do you want to touch? Yeah. Do you want to touch me now? Hey, okay. I've got that out of my system now. So Joan Jett, that's what you really wanted to start the show with.
Gotcha. Love Joan Jett.
Gotcha. Yes, and her black spiky hair and her leather jacket and her hard rocking ways.
That's great.
That's what I think.
Hey, Craig, we have a huge show for our listeners today. I mean, we are just destroying it this morning. Big news all over the planet Earth, by the way. A big shout out to Consano, one of our favorite, if not our favorite Mount Pleasant dispensary. We love all the dispensaries out there. But Consano, they did it, folks. They did it. The vote was 5-1 in favor for the ordinance change during last week's Mount Pleasant Commissioners meeting. And that means, folks, that Consano, following Michigan statute, which is just amazing, gained enough signatures, and it will be on the ballot in November to allow for more recreational dispensaries in the great city of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, to go along with Jars and Loom and all the other great dispensaries located throughout central and northern Michigan. Of course, the Hempire Collective, one of our favorite all-time locations right there off Loomis Road. Great place, Hempire Collective. But yeah, Craig, we have a huge show, though, today for the listeners. We have a lot to get to. Kat is coming on the show.
Kat's going to talk about Barryton Homecoming Days. That's coming up in early August. Actually, that's this coming week because today is August 1st. Can you believe that, Todd? It's already August. Where's this year gone?
Not sure, Craig, but enjoy a little bit more cake batter, and it won't really even matter.
Yes, that's correct. No one's going to really care at this point.
Nobody's going to really care, by the way. And, and by the way, Wedding Cake gave birth to that cake batter. I just want to
right
that.
on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Well, what is it? What is it a combination? Usually it's like, what is it? Grape punch and, Rocky Road make grape pie or whatever. What is cake batter? What is the wedding cake and what made cake batter?
Well, coming in at 22%. I mean, wedding cake is comprised of other genetics.
Okay.
Huge on the West Coast. High. It's for the high THC aficionados out there, which are many amongst you out there. But the lighter Maui Mango Diesel, which is our second strain of the show today, is coming in a little bit less at 18%. Very high sativa dominant hybrid, which is the child of Maui Wowie, which we featured on the show a ways back, and Brooklyn Mango, Craig. But the Craig Russell Muscle Hustle strain of the millennia is yet to be born. So we are not sure. I think you're going to come from a little, I don't know, something purple, something blueberry.
Sure,
that's where you're coming from. I mean,
yeah.
So that's where you're heading.
That makes a lot of sense.
In the 18 legal states and counting, of course.
Yes,
only in the
correct.
18 legal states and counting.
That's correct. At least for recreational, and there's also over 30 when it comes to medical, and so we're getting there. But we also have to talk about the Sable River Canoe Marathon, which happened last weekend, and the Wakeleys. We will get into that in a
Jordan Wakely, way to go, first place.
Yes,
we definitely need to talk about Jordan.
We will chat about that. But before we get started, I have to ask you, as I always do, Todd, do you have a complaint? Has anything gotten crawled up into your bonnet and buzzed around in there and just got you on edge?
My complaint is a continuation of a few weeks back when I talked about the beef cattle that were strolling around one of the backcountry roads that I came across that I had to get out and rustle off the side of the road. As I drive throughout the ditch and the backcountry roads in the great state of Michigan to central northern Michigan, I often wonder, why do animals have to cross the road? I mean, there's plenty of farmland and woods and forest and nature preserves on the side of the road that they're currently existing on. Why is it necessary that every morning or evening or afternoon I have to continuously dodge rabbits and all kinds of critters running across the roads? It's just cranes, turkeys. Please, folks, if there's any animals listening to the show in the state of Michigan, there's plenty to do on the side of the road that you're currently living on. You don't have to cross over to visit the relatives. Just stay where you are so I don't have to dodge you anymore. That's my complaint.
Do you know who Will Ferrell is? You know who Will Ferrell is, right?
Of course. Sure. Who does not love Will Ferrell?
Yes. Now, I know you're not necessarily the biggest sports fan in the world, but did you ever see Will Ferrell?
What are you talking about, Craig? I played every sport known to mankind. Okay. I love sports of all types: basketball, baseball, football.
Okay.
Don't even get me started.
All right. Well, do you ever remember Will Ferrell doing his imitation of Harry Carey? Used to be the Chicago Cubs baseball announcer.
I do not.
Okay. See, there we go. He was on an episode of Saturday Night Live like 100 years ago, and him and Jeff Goldblum were doing this impersonation of Harry Carey, and he said, "They call me Whiskers because I'm curious like a cat." Now, I'm not doing a very good imitation of him doing the imitation of Harry Carey, but that's why animals cross the road, because they're curious. They're curious like a cat. They want to know what's going on the other side of the road.
Sure,
they want to know.
The family of turkeys is curious as to what's on the other side of the road. No, they're just eating the gravel, and which I learned last year on the show here on the side of the road.
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know why they eat gravel. Yeah, exactly.
Because they get it confused because of the salt. They see the salt on the road and they eat the gravel along with it, and because they're not really good at discerning the difference between the salt that's on the road and the gravel. They eat it all, and so that probably ends up killing them. But they're curious. They're curious to know what's going on. It's the same reason why when you walk into a room and if there's a button there and it says "Don't press the button," what do you do?
You press the button.
Exactly. You want to see
It's the
what
same
happens.
reason why when somebody approaches an elevator button and it's already lit as if you are waiting for it, that person still walks up to it, hits the button as if the elevator is going to come any faster, folks. I got news for you. It will not, and it does not. Craig, but we are a law show. I am an attorney Todd L. Levitt from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and you are Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle.
America's favorite NUG.
America's favorite NUG and Dank. And Kat's coming on the show from Barryton to talk about Barryton Homecoming Days. We have to talk about Jordan Wakely setting all the records in the Asabo canoe race over a week or so ago. 18 legal states and counting. Weed contests are thriving. A little too much Maui there. And we have a little bit, if not more, law to get to here on the show, Craig.
Which is crazy considering this is a law show. We will take a break, and when we come back, Kat will be on to talk about Barryton Homecoming Days. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting in the middle of the mitten in a beautiful green nutrient field with my good friend Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle, coming back strong, Craig, with Joan Jett this time, not Phil Collins, and I think we will continue throughout the show to just destroy it, turn it and burn it with Joan Jett. Good choice.
Joan Jett, yeah, with her spiky black hair and her leather jacket and her hard wrecking ways. She is all that. And somebody else who is all that as well is joining us live via from whatever, I don't know what recording thing we're using for this nowadays. Is it where we're doing Zoom? No, I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's Kat is here from the Barryton to talk about Barryton Homecoming Days. Hi, Kat.
Yeah, Kat. Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Kat, in a way of introduction, Kat is on the village council. She's also on the board for the Barryton Homecoming Days, taking place August 6th, 7th, and 8th next weekend, Craig, 2021. And it's just, we will be there, just a fantastic event. And Kat's a good friend of the show, and we thought we would have Miss Kerr on the show to talk about it. So, Kat, you sound like you are from Texas. Are you from Texas, by the way?
I spent 20 plus years in Texas, but I was actually born and raised in Michigan.
Okay. What part of Texas?
Just north of Houston.
Okay, north of Houston. So, Kat, tell us, first off, we often mention Barryton on the show here. Where is Barryton located? The village of Barryton.
It's on M66 between US 10 and M20.
Yeah, and that, for those who do not live in the state of Michigan, Craig, how would you describe that?
It's on M66 between US 10 and M20. That's how
Come on, Craig.
It's kind of little north and west of Mount Pleasant, correct? So if you're looking at your hand, if Mount Pleasant is about where your middle finger meets your palm, Barryton's up a little north and west of that, so a little to the left.
Yeah, it's one of the main roads if you're traveling north or south. If you're heading up to Traverse City or Cadillac, anywhere to the northwest or just central Michigan, it sits between Big Rapids and CMU. Great village, great folks, great businesses. I always stop off there and take my business there. But, Kat, tell us a little bit about Barryton Homecoming Days. What's that all about?
We have 3 days of events just for everybody, from truck pulls to car show to chicken barbecue. live music, vendors. We got it all going on.
Yeah, chicken barbecue.
Chicken barbecue?
You never had a chicken barbecued, Craig?
I have had chicken barbecue. It's delicious. That's why I piqued my attention when I heard chicken barbecue. So sorry, Todd. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, if you are familiar or unfamiliar with the village of Barryton, right there off 66. So, Kat, tell us where exactly in the village it takes place.
It's on the west side of the village, off of 20 Mile, headed towards Big Rapids, at the Fork Township Community Center.
Frickin' fantastic. And so there's a car show. It starts Friday evening on the 6th, correct?
Correct.
And what happens? What takes place on the 6th?
On the 6th, we have modified trucks coming in for our truck pull.
Okay.
That's the biggest event.
And that's Friday night and Saturday, and you have vendors and exhibitors and food, as you mentioned. Other prizes?
For the truck pull, there is, as well as that we have horseshoe tournament, cornhole tournament, the car show. Everything gets a prize.
Yeah, it's fantastic, Craig. And isn't there an ATV poker run also that takes place in the village?
There is. That's a new one for me. That happens on Saturday afternoon, and our friend Chelsea Corwin handles that one. Takes a few hours. They come back and enjoy the beer tent afterwards.
Oh, there's a beer tent. Well, now of course we did not mention the beer tent. Are there any rides? Is there any carnival going on? Action going on, or?
This year we don't have a carnival, but we're trying to build it for next year.
Got it.
Oh, absolutely. And also, by the way, Barryton, which is on M66, is also known for water. Kat, tell us a little bit about the water and why so many folks from all over the Midwest stop off in the village to fill up and get some water.
We have a natural artesian well that flows. It's been flowing here for as long as I can remember, right in Central Park. People come from as far away as Mason with gallon jugs.
Yep, absolutely. Some really good water, Craig. And on Sunday, by the way, on the 8th, they've got flea market, crafts, the fire department. We support not only law enforcement, but all of our first responders. A little too much Maui mango there. But on Sunday, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., the fire department has an open house at the fire station. That's amazing. There's a softball tournament. The museum is open, as Kat mentioned, a double horseshoe pitch tournament, hospitality tent car show. There's so much going on in the village of Barryton, Kat. And look, we support all the communities across the state of Michigan and the world, especially our great country that we live in. But we love Mid-Michigan. We love Barryton. So, we support things that happen in Mount Pleasant and Clare and Wademan and Rosebush and all the way to Houghton, and Prudenville and Beaverton, Gladwin. We love all our communities here. But we definitely wanted to support you. And how can people find out more information leading up to this great event in Barryton, Kat?
They can find us on our Facebook page or on our website at barrytondays.com.
And how long has this been going on? What year is this for Barryton Days?
This would be our 127th year.
Wow, Craig, you've been around. Craig has been at every one of those. Craig, you are one old dude.
I don't know if I've been to every one of them, but I've been to a lot. No.
Yeah. Hey, Kat, awesome. What is it free to the public?
It is free to the public. They can come in, visit our vendors, watch the truck pull has a cost. That's $10 for an adult, but it's worth it.
Fantastic. Anybody you want to give a shout out to, Kat, before we let you go?
Just our community. We have a really great community that puts its support behind us 100%.
Absolutely. Great folks there in the village of Barryton. Yep, absolutely. I always stop off at Papalani's gas station and get some gas and some food, and on my way to get some ice cream across the street, stop off at Murphy's and the local hardware store. They got some great businesses, tires located throughout the village of Barryton. Be sure to stop and check it out on the way north or south, east or west. Kat, we will see you at Barryton Homecoming Days coming up here next week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Say hi to everybody in the village for us, Kat.
Will do.
Thank you very much, Kat. We appreciate having Kat on from the village of Barryton. We're getting ready for Homecoming Days coming up. We have to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. When we come back, we will be talking some serious law with Todd L. Levitt, lawyer at large. That's next on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Thanks, Craig. Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt and Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle, our favorite NUGs rock and roll morning show here on. Yeah, don't I wish? Can't we just play music 24 hours, 7 days a week, Craig?
No, we can't. That would be
Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig.
Come on, Todd.
How do you like that cake batter you're enjoying this morning, though?
Cake batter, I want it to taste like cookie dough, but it doesn't. It tastes like cake batter.
You and your favorite lady, wedding cake, gave birth, and the child is cake batter coming in at a 22% THC. Very high in THC, folks, by the way.
Very
huge
potent,
on the West Coast. Huge on the West Coast.
For Sunday morning. It's probably ingested a little later in the day on the West Coast. Probably not at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday or whatever that is. So
big shout out to Jordan Wakely and his team member for breaking every record literally that existed in the Osabo canoe race over a week ago, just destroying it. I mean, he was up, they just took off and never looked back. And, Grayling's own Jordan Wakely, Crawford County, we're so proud of Jordan and everybody involved with his team and his teammate there. And they took first place and just destroyed it. That's
awesome. Of course, last year there wasn't a canoe marathon due to the pandemic. This year, everything was back going, and safely and everything. But so everybody had a year to practice and had a year to limber up and be ready to go. And maybe they were a little fresher. And so, the Wakely team was hot last weekend for the Sabo River Canoe Marathon. Of course, you heard all of that action all weekend long here on 98.5 UPS. Of course, if you were on the podcast and you were listening, say in Boise, Idaho, or somewhere in Slovakia, you have no idea what we're talking about. But in Michigan, especially in that part of Michigan, there's 3 big canoe marathon races every year. One is in Canada, one is in upstate New York, and this one in Michigan. And this is the longest of the 3. So congratulations to the Wakeleys. They did fantastic. So
Jordan is just unbelievable.
We've got to get to some actual law, and I have a question for you. A little while back, you were talking about the Cannabis Administration Opportunity Act. What happened to that?
Well, after months of speculation, folks, the U.S. Senate, and this may be old news to some of the listeners out there, the U.S. Senate revealed their long-awaited marijuana legalization bill, which kind of resembles the MORE Act, which we have talked about over the past couple years, which passed the House last year. But it didn't find any traction in the Senate. Now you have the Senate introducing their version of a bill which would remove cannabis from the federal list of controlled substances. It would expunge federal cannabis records, impose a federal tax on marijuana, and reinvest that tax, Craig, that revenue in communities and individuals most adversely affected by the war on drugs, which is basically every single community out there. Exactly. So it's a big deal. I mean, will it get enough votes in the Senate? I'm not really sure. But there was something in the past called the Safe Banking Act. If you recall, we talked about that, and that banking measure, which did not pass either chamber of Congress, would have allowed financial institutions to serve state legal cannabis companies, which has been a huge problem. We've talked about that, without fear of federal penalties. And it would have provided relief to existing businesses without offering relief, to the 500,000 Americans arrested for cannabis every year. But, the new bill, would create a community reinvestment grant program, and it would raise quite a bit of taxes. That's something that you always talk about, Craig.
Always.
You always talk about the tax.
It's the money. It follows the money.
Yeah.
This is the whole. I'm completely convinced if anything is ever going to happen federally on the cannabis level, there has to be some kind of money attached to it, because they're not just going to do it for the heck of it. If they have a chance to, raise $430 million in taxes and wipe out some of the deficit, that's good on both sides of the gavel. I mean, that would be there. You find either side of the political spectrum that wouldn't want to reduce some of the deficit and make some money by doing something that's already being done.
Talk about infrastructure.
Yeah.
You could fund infrastructure in a matter of months. I mean, the new bill would remove cannabis, from the federal schedule of controlled substances. It would take the DEA out of the cannabis law enforcement business. It would install the Treasury Department to have oversight. And it would prevent federal officials from discriminating against anyone who uses cannabis legally, Craig. And that's a big deal. It would also create an opportunity program within the, SBA administration. Look, this is not a political thing. It's not a blue or red issue. It's just a right that people have. It's an individual thing. If people want to partake or have a drink or a smoke or go for a run or go for a walk, as long as they're not hurting anybody, then, I'm okay with it here.
It's not a red or a blue thing.
We love the Constitution. We love the Constitution.
Yeah, it's not a red or a blue thing. It's a red, white, and blue thing.
Exactly.
It's everybody.
And again, just, there's states out there on both sides of the spectrum that have legalized cannabis.
Sure,
and I think it's more so the older generations. I'm not quite sure the current administration, because of the age of the administration, and that's not knocking any administration. We don't take sides here. Look, again, we love the Constitution, and that's where we stand, and we'll just leave it at that. But it seems as if the older generations, much older,
against it.
Still have an issue with it.
Yeah,
so,
it might take another generation of politicians to come in.
I hope not. Come on, Craig.
But you know what? Here you go. 18 states have legalized recreational. 31 states have legalized medicinal. Not all of those are all Democratic states, and not all of those are Republican. There's a mix of those. There's plenty of states that lean Republican or lean conservative that have approved this. So it's not like it's all just a political thing. It might take a little more time, but look. I've said this many times. Look at the progress we've made. 50 years ago, there was no states where anything was legal. And now, 50 years later, look where we sit.
Well, we need relief across the board. That's why it has to be removed from the Controlled Substance Act, and it has to be accepted on a federal level. We have the trucking industry. We have, individuals who work for employers that get tested on a regular basis, and they can't participate in any medicinal aspects. And so there needs to be changes across the board, and we've been advocating for it nonstop since we've been doing this show. So
going on 35 years now. So
at least 40, 45 years, by the way, Craig. Come on, Craig.
Come on, Todd. Something like that. So is there any other law that has hit your noggin of knowledge this week that you want to talk about?
Well, one of the things I do want to talk about is something that just you questioned me earlier, and rightfully so, as to whether or not I had any complaints. And my complaint is to individuals who fail to heed the warning signs and obey the law when it comes to construction zone signs. When you approach a construction zone, typically you need to slow down where construction workers are present, at least in the state of Michigan, and there are laws across all 50 states. Slow down in construction zones. Yes. I know of an individual, a good friend, who contacted my office last week. He works in the ditch on the highway, and there were warnings, and a car happened to come speeding through the construction zone and ran into a vehicle that he was in, and he suffered injuries. And, it's just a painful phone call. So, folks, and look, if you are approaching a construction zone, anywhere where there are workers on the side of the road, highway, any type of roadway, slow down. If there's cars behind you that are upset because you're following and obeying the law, well, too bad, so sad. You are protecting, those men and women who wish to come home to their families.
Yeah.
And, it was just a painful phone call that I took this week from a good friend. And he said, yeah, Todd, I got injured by a vehicle who sped through a construction zone at a high rate of speed, lost control, hit the work truck that I was in with a coworker. We both got injured and had to be shipped off to emergency. And now he has broken ribs. And it's all because somebody was in too much of a hurry and failed to obey, a few simple rules of the road and laws. And it's just, and often we hear it turns out the other way, where individuals are killed. Or severely injured because somebody sped through a construction zone. Everybody just slow down. There's no need to be in a hurry. You're going to get to where you're going.
Well, and you see those signs in those construction zones that says, injure, kill a worker, it's fines and jail time. Who really wants, oh, I was in too big of a hurry to, get to whatever, watch the game or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, instead of going 45 through the construction zone where there was workers, they're trying to go 65 or 70. It's worse on interstate highways because you're going from 70. Most construction zones, you have to go through 60. And then when the workers are present, you go to 45. And there's a lot of places, if there's no workers present, nobody's slowing down, especially if it stays 2 lanes. If it goes down to 1 lane, you'll get people slowing down. Just take it easy. Don't be in such a hurry. The life you save, and the life you save not only could be your own, but it could be those people, hardworking men and women like you always talk about, who are fixing our roads to make sure our roads are safe and smooth to drive on. Keep it that way.
Yeah, you could. Let's say you're speeding through a construction zone. There are, under the motor vehicle code in most states, if not all states, there are misdemeanors and civil infractions that you can be ticketed with, let alone something worse, such as vehicular homicide, non-alcoholic vehicular homicide, meaning, let's hope you don't end up killing somebody. But, it's hard enough for men and women who work on the highways. They have to deal with elements. And typically they are, laying cement, laying tar. It's dusty, it's sandy. And they don't need to sit there and worry about vehicles that are going to be, approaching at a high rate of speed, putting everybody's lives at risk. And unfortunately, it does happen all too often. And again, I happened to take a call at my office last week from a good friend here in northern Michigan, up towards West Branch, who happens to work on the highways. And unfortunately, he was victim of somebody that came through at a high rate of speed. So, there are reckless tickets. Those are misdemeanors in the state of Michigan, 6 points, license sanctions, a misdemeanor ticket of reckless driving. And people often ask, well, is careless a misdemeanor? No, careless is a civil infraction that comes with points also. In Michigan, by the way, if you get points on your driving record or abstract, depending upon where you live, they stay on for a period of 2 years. If you get 2 moving violations in the state of Michigan within a 12-month period, you can lose your ability to operate a motor vehicle, and or you could be called in to a driver's assessment meeting with a hearing officer, a non-attorney individual who has the ability to restrict or even suspend your ability to operate a motor vehicle. And something, Craig, that we don't touch on often enough are the individuals out there. And we all know who they are. It could happen to you. It could happen to me. It's definitely, individuals who get older and should not be operating a motor vehicle. At least in Michigan, if you have a relative, loved one, or somebody that absolutely unequivocally should not be operating a motor vehicle, you can report that to the Secretary of State. And there are consequences for that. We get calls all the time, not all the time, a couple times a year, from individuals who had a family member that was concerned about their ability to operate motor vehicles safely, and they had their driving privileges taken.
Yep.
And it's devastating. Once you lose your ability to operate a motor vehicle, you lose that freedom, that independence, because you present a danger or a risk to the public at large, including yourself. You will have your privileges taken away, and often family members have the task of doing that. And it's very painful to have to call the state of Michigan, the Secretary of State, and report that type of thing.
And that happens anywhere, whether you have a DMV or a Secretary of State or whatever it is. Some people, my mom, who just passed away last month, she voluntarily did it at the beginning of the year, realized she was no longer able to drive, couldn't do it anymore, and had to give up her driver's license. She was mad about it, but she did it, and I think she got it. And probably one of the last lucid things that she did before she passed was...
Yeah, your mom was a great lady, by the way, Craig.
Thank you. Coming to the realization...
Just a great, dear lady, great lady.
Yes, coming to the realization that you can't drive anymore, and that you're saving people's lives and saving your own life is, not everybody's that self-aware. Not everybody can come up with that, but some people need help.
Yeah, and there are people out there who don't want to hear me talk about that because, hey, a light just went off in their noggin. Oh, I didn't know that, because everybody knows somebody at some point that should not be operating a motor vehicle. And unfortunately, they're in the states across this great country of ours. You contact the right person at the Secretary of State. They make a report. It trickles down. They notify the driver. they schedule, at least in Michigan, a driver's assessment. At least in Michigan, you have a right to object to that action. So you go before a hearing officer at a branch office when they're open, and that hearing officer will determine a number of factors. At times, you have to present a medical form from a doctor, sometimes a psychological form. You might have to take a road test, a written test, a vision test. But that individual who works for the Secretary of State or Department of Motor Vehicles in whichever state you live in will make that determination as to whether or not that person does pose a serious risk to himself and others that operate on our roadways. And so just because you do report that somebody should not be operating a vehicle, folks, that individual does have certain rights to object and keep themselves operating safely. Unfortunately, I've seen it the other way, whereby individuals contact my office and somebody reported them, typically a family member, and I can't represent that person because I refuse to put that person back on the road because they do pose a serious risk or danger according to their loved ones who know better. Now, obviously, people can use it for the wrong reasons to retaliate against somebody in their family or a friend, and that's not right. But for the most part, I don't see it that way.
No, and I think most people, let's be really honest, if an adult child or somebody close to this family member sees them struggling on the road, if they have to take a road test, it's probably not going to turn on it. They're not just all of a sudden magically going to become a better driver overnight. It's probably their skills and their ability have deteriorated over years, and that's probably going to become evident when you take a test, a road test or a vision test, and that it's going to probably work itself out the way it should, more than likely.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to have your senses when you operate any motor vehicle on any roadway or any highway. If you lose your sense of sight, which is very serious. I have some good friends who are dealing with certain eyesight issues, and my love and respect goes out to that individual and those individuals. They know who they are. But if you lose your sight or your hearing or your cognitive skills or your physical skills and can no longer operate a motor vehicle, then you do pose a serious threat to everyone on the roadway.
Yourself and everybody, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, how often have we been driving down the ditch or a highway or a roadway or a back road and you see an individual and you say to yourselves, once you pass that individual at a safe speed, wow, that person should not be operating a motor vehicle.
I mean, who hasn't been driving on the highway and drove and, you're going 70, doing the speed limit, and then there's a car, and it's probably an old Buick or an Oldsmobile, and it's got a little old lady who barely can see over the steering wheel. She's going 55, and you're like, ooh, boy, Grandma probably shouldn't be on the road anymore. I might be stereotyping here, but that's what usually you see a lot of, is maybe they're not really all together with it enough to continue to drive. Maybe they are. Maybe they're just being very cautious. But for the most part, most time you go, ooh, maybe that's not the best thing that should be done. But
and it's and again, folks, the conversations I've had with individuals who had their privileges stripped because of medical conditions or age or whatnot, it's so devastating when you have these conversations because you can hear the pain in their voice, the emotions they feel, the freedom they have lost. With the inability to get to where they need to go, the independence they feel, especially folks when they get older. And, possibly they've lost loved ones and friends because they've lived such a long life. And maybe their kids are no longer in the picture and they need to get to the store. I mean, thank goodness with all the home food delivery options you have now and Ubers and public transportation. But still, it's freedom and independence. It really is.
And think how you access Uber and things like that on a smartphone with the internet. And can you be
good point, Craig.
You met any 90-year-old people who are really on the internet actively? No. So it's harder. It's harder than you think. I mean, like I said, I saw my mom. My mom was 75, and I saw her go through some of that. She was very frustrated about losing her independence because she always had to depend on people to take her to doctor's appointments and things like that, and she couldn't do it anymore. And it got to her, I think, after a while. But
and she, like I said, she was a great lady. And by the way, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in the state of Michigan. When you receive a restricted license for whatever reason, the state is now allowing you to have an ID as if it looks as it's a driver's license, with a sticker on it. So you no longer have to be without photo ID, because for decades when your license was suspended and you received a temporary driving permit, it was a piece of paper. Well, how are you supposed to rent a car? How are you supposed to get on a train? How are you supposed to get on a bus? How are you supposed to buy something, purchase something, or rent a car, anything without a photo ID? And when the state took your license, gave you a piece of paper, your hands were, what were you going to do? So now the state of Michigan finally provides an actual driver's license with a sticker on it that says it's restricted, folks, if you missed that show a couple weeks ago. Hey, big shout out, by the way, to Big Daddy Danny Bain, Judge Bain down in Livingston County. He does a great job. Judge Dan Bain is coming back on the show soon, and we look forward to having him back on the show.
Yes, we do. We've got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. When we come back, we will wrap the show up next. Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, turning it and burning it with Joan Jett and her spiky black hair and her rock and roll sensibility. Do you want to touch Todd? Yeah. Do you want to touch Todd? Okay, I don't know about that, but
do you want to touch? Yeah.
Do you want to? Okay. Enough of that. Anyway, Todd, we've got to get the show wrapped up here. It was a great show with Kat on from Barryton Days and everything that's going on in Barryton next weekend, and talking about the Wakelys, talking about some law. We were just talking about that off the air. That is one thing we've never brought up before on this show, and we've been doing it for how long? About
200 years.
Yeah,
200 years.
Older people in driver's license. That's something that's very informative, but we never get a chance really to talk about that kind of stuff.
No, we didn't have time to talk about the monarch butterflies that I've been hatching lately.
Okay.
And lacking milkweeds. That's a true story there. So a big shout out to all the cocoons turning into monarch butterflies. Your milkweed is coming. Little John is helping me gather some milkweeds for you guys. And also, we didn't have time to talk about all the High Times cannabis cups crossing the country in 2021. So be sure to check out leafly.com, hightimes.com for all those great contests out there. Craig, we have to go, don't we?
I know we do. I didn't even get a chance to ask you about facial hair. I wanted to talk about that this week. Man, it's a good thing we got a show next week.
Come on, Craig.
Come on, Todd.
I didn't think you could grow facial hair. You're always just bald across the face.
Well,
too much Nair there, Craig. You use too much Nair.
Nair.
Remember Nair commercials?
I do. Oh, my God.
Come on, Craig.
Todd, this show is over. We got to go, man.
Craig, we're not here for a long time. You're my favorite nug. We're here for a short time. Folks, have a great day. Same time, same place next week. We'll see you then.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Malley Well Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, and attorney Todd L. Levitt, not just a litigator, he's an advocator.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.